the NWC wrestling promotion, and then we roomed together. And on the day that we had to go to the airport, first off, traveling with him, I've got all the same stories as everybody else. He would try to use his photos as currency. And so he would be offended if you try and whip out your money. And he did it at drive-thrus. He did it at nice restaurants. He did it at strip clubs. Whenever a bill comes, if we whip out our wallet, he would actually get mad at us and tell us to, put it away. And then he would ask to speak to the manager, and he would go through this spiel, where he pulled out his pictures, and he would say, this is me and Cyndi Lauper, and this is me and the jabroni Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he'd say, he'd ask, like, whose neck is bigger, and his neck looked way bigger in the photo. Yeah. And then there was the one of him and Hulk Hogan, and he would and the managers would look at it like, oh, okay, why you showing me this kind of, like, oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember. You sure? And then he'd say, which one you want? That one, And then he would say, okay, and then he'd say, maybe you take care of our bill. And geez, I can't do it. 50% off, okay, the American charity. That was his deal, and he did it everywhere. And we were at the gate at the airport, and I saw him hustling some guys that just right there at the in the seats, waiting to get on the airplane. And then when he goes to sign it to him, and then starts to charge the guy's like, what? I told you I'm down to my last 75 cents. He goes, this is all I got. I lost all my money. And then, Iron Sheik, of course, takes it from his hand. It's okay. Anything helps our charity, American charity. It was like, you cocksucker. You're going to take my last 75 cents? You're the world champion. And that was that was pretty funny. But before we left for the airport, he wanted to get there earlier than me. I was running late, laying out by the pool or something, and came in, packed my bags, and when I went to leave the room, he had signed an 8x10 and left it on the dresser. Whoa, shit! On the dresser gimmick, and he signed it to Made Iron Sheik.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah.
Now, how often was the success rate with that? Would he just constantly do it and then just
always? They would at least say, "Okay, I guess I can do 10% off."
Yeah, get something like that. So
it was embarrassing sometimes, but whatever, And I was young and gave him the respect, when he would say, he'd get mad, and we go, no, I got this one, and he'd just give you this look. You're like, let me do my fucking thing, bro.
Okay. Now, as far as the name thing goes, he was the Iron Sheik, and the original Sheik was, your guy. Was there any did somebody make that delineation that hey?
I have the story that I was told by the original Sheik.
Yeah.
And he said that cause Iron Sheik copied him.
Okay.
He said he was the first one to have the curly-toed boots, and he said that he helped the Iron Sheik out when he was helping him get work and stuff. And he said that Iron Sheik took his gimmick, and that's what he used to tell us back in the training days. So,
okay, yeah, I was always curious about that, how that all kind of laid out there. This kind of leads into my next question. It's a follow-up from last week. You mentioned too, when you start off with Sabu and everything, you initially were sparked by going to Killer Kowalski's school. What kind of gave you that incentive to maybe go there instead of working with the Sheik at first? What was the reasoning that you were going to make that trip over to Massachusetts? Right? Is that where?
Right. So, I had gotten the list of all these pro wrestling schools that I ordered from a wrestling magazine. I sent them $5. They sent me this list, and there was 40 some schools, and then I think there might have been one in Hawaii, a couple in Canada, and there was some phone numbers and there was some addresses. So I was corresponding to the ones that had the addresses, and I would call, and I was going through the whole list while I was still in high school because I was going to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And it was when I was still 18, had graduated high school. I talked to a bunch of them, you know, and when I talked to Kowalski, he sounded like some of the things that were important to me when I was looking at wrestling schools were, one, the tuition was important, you know, because there was a huge difference between $2,000 and $10,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
The credibility, you know, of the trainer. Who is he trained? How long has he been around? What's he done in the business? And another thing that was important, you know, was how long would the school take, which I learned was totally going to depend on the individual.
The person, yeah.
That was the one thing I didn't like about Kowalski. When I asked him, well, anyway, I ended up taking a trip to go see Kowalski, bought a plane ticket, first, you know, time going by myself anywhere, flying to Boston, and it was all arranged. Kowalski picked me up from the airport. He was so cool. Took me to his school. He was training me and stuff. And I asked him, how long, you know, does your school take, you know, till the course is done? And he said, you're never done. He said, you're always learning. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound very good. You know, and he said, some of these schools say they train you and they're out in 6 months. He said, you don't even know how to tie your boots in 6 months. And I remember I was like, wow, that, you know, that's the one thing I don't like about it. But I got to see him work out with the class and learn about him, you know, all the pictures on the wall and the history of him, all that. It was something I could imagine me doing. So I was going to come back and get a job somewhere and get an apartment somewhere, even though I'd never done that before. But that was my plan to make it work. So as luck would have it, I was saving up for that when I found out that the original Sheik only lived 45 minutes from my parents' house where I was residing, and that I eventually learned that he and Kayla Kowalski both got trained by the same guy, who was Bert Ruby. So that was interesting that it trickled down to me that way.
Yeah, how about that? And you even just making the trip was just like further motivation, I'm sure, like to be like, hey, this is what the fuck I want to do, you know?
Yeah, I was like, I got to show my mom and dad I'm serious about this. Otherwise, they're going to want me to go to college or join the army or something, you know? And so let me go check it out and start this thing and, you know, see how it does for me.
Now, was there any thought to you going up to the Heart Dungeon in Calgary?
Yeah, they had a 4-month training machine, if you could call it that, because I don't even know if you could call it a school, the training camp. But it was like a 4-month, and they were saying they'd get you in and out. And I liked the thoughts of that because I wanted to get out there and wrestle. And I thought, wow, this place I could learn enough from there to be ready in that amount of time, which now sounds ridiculous. But I thought about it, and if I'm not mistaken, I think their school was like $4,000, and I think Kowalski's was maybe $3,000. I could be off on that. And with the Sheik, it ended up being like $2,000, which I don't think I ever officially made the last payments on. But they were all around there. So that was one thing about the Hart brothers, was that it was like double the
price. Yeah, and that, I mean, that says a lot too, especially, you know, even more so back in those days too. Jeez.